Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I am now going to reconvene the Monterey County Board of Supervisors meetings for Tuesday, March 1st. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Good afternoon. Let the record reflect all supervisors are present, with Supervisors Askew, Adams, and Phillips appearing in person, and Supervisors Alejo and Lopez appearing via video conference.
Thank you very much. And now in our determination to be able to end our meeting by 3 and zoom through our agenda items, I'd like to see if my colleagues would agree to a motion to continue item number 24, the organizational review of the current cannabis program, to March 8th.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. So I have a motion by Ruth Askew and a second by Alejo. Roll call vote, please.
Public comment.
Supervisor Alejo?
Point of order. Public
Yes.
comment. Public comment.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you very much for that. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment on the Citygate Associates report that we are moving to March 8th? And you'll, of course, have an opportunity to comment when we formally hear the item on March 8th. Could you tell me if we have any hands raised online? There are none. Okay. And seeing no one coming forward in the chambers, we will go for a roll call vote.
Supervisor Alejo?
Aye.
Supervisor Phillips?
Aye.
Supervisor Lopez?
Aye.
Supervisor Ruth Askew?
Aye.
And Chair Supervisor Adams.
Aye. Thank you very much for that. And now we will go to item number 25, which is to introduce, waive reading, and set March 15th at 10:30 as the date and time to consider adoption of an ordinance, amending Chapter 7.80 of the Monterey County Code to ban the sale of flavored tobacco products and single-use electronic cigarettes. And we've all had time to review this item, and we've heard from both sides, and I'd like to go ahead and move forward with this. In fact, I would like to go ahead and make a motion to approve this ordinance as it is written, which is to adopt the ordinance amending Chapter 7.80 of Monterey County to ban the sale of flavored tobacco products and single-use electronic cigarettes.
Second.
That was a second by
Alejo.
Alejo. Okay, and we'll go out to the public for comments on this item. I am
There are 3 or 4 hands up now in Zoom.
okay, and I see that we have a few hands up. So I will ask your help in identifying the people who are wanting to raise their hands and comment.
The first one is Dr. Liu.
Dr. Liu. Okay, if you would like to make your comments, you have 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Hi, my name is Dr. David Liu. I'm with the Co-Subcommittee on Substance Use with the American Academy of Pediatrics. And we urge you to end the sale of all flavored tobacco products without exemptions to protect Monterey County kids from the predatory practices of big tobacco. The tobacco industry is actively and aggressively working to addict new users with easy access to sweet, candy-flavored tobacco products. They specifically target our kids and aggressively are working to addict new users with menthol and other flavored tobacco products and make it easier to start and harder to quit. But Monterey County can stand up to the tobacco industry and say enough is enough. Over 70 communities across California, including Sacramento County, San Francisco, Santa Barbara County, and Los Angeles County have decided to protect their kids from nicotine addiction by ending the sale of all flavored tobacco products without exemptions. Don't Monterey County kids deserve these same protections? We are all doing what we can to protect the health of our community. We need you to put the health of our kids over tobacco products and pass a comprehensive ordinance. This is the best way to protect Monterey County residents from nicotine addiction and tobacco-related death and disease for generations to come. Thank you. And I just want to add that vapes are a gateway drug to combustible cigarettes. They are one of the few proven gateway drugs. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your expertise and your opinion, and I appreciate that. Secondly, we will go to Alexa Warman. And you can press *6 to unmute yourself. I think you're ready to go. Alexa?
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Alexa Warman with the American Heart Association.
We thank the board for bringing forward a comprehensive ordinance, and our organization urges you to pass the proposed policy as written. Big Tobacco uses flavors to entice kids and communities of color into trying their addictive products. You may have heard from lobbyists for the hookah industry that their product is not a problem among kids, but data from the California Department of Public Health clearly disputes this. Hookah companies target new users with flavors like mango, red gummy bear, and horchata, making their product popular among youth and young adults, particularly Black and Hispanic high school students. And just like other tobacco products, hookah has serious health consequences. In a single session, a hookah user inhales as much as 200 cigarettes worth of smoke. As for Senate Bill 793, the law explicitly allows local jurisdictions to go further to protect their residents from all flavored tobacco products. And the ordinance before you will do just that. It will protect local kids and marginalized communities from the tobacco industry's predatory practices. This policy is about health equity, social justice, and saving future generations of Monterey County residents. Please stand up to Big Tobacco and pass this ordinance as written. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Warman. Next, we have Ann Wheelis. And you have 1 minute, 30 seconds for your comments, Ms. Wheelis.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Monterey County Board of Supervisors. I am Ann Wheelis. I live in Pacific Grove, and I am a member of the California State Advocacy Committee of the American Heart Association. AHA supports the proposed ordinance ending the sale of all flavored tobacco products and single-use devices without exemptions. This policy is urgently needed. When the state passed Senate Bill 793 restricting the sale of most flavored tobacco products in California, tobacco companies spent more than $20 million to place the law on hold in a referendum until the next statewide general election. Tobacco industry representatives may ask you to wait for the state law to be decided, but I ask why. Monterey County has the right and the responsibility to enact their own laws to protect their residents. Are you going to cede your opportunity to make another positive difference in the health of our residents? Do we want to leave protection of the health of our youth up to voters in the rest of the state? We have no guarantee that the state law will be upheld, but we do know that Big Tobacco will spend millions more to keep this law off the books. In the meantime, every day that flavored tobacco products remain on Monterey County shelves is another opportunity for the tobacco industry to addict more lifelong customers. We need you, our elected representatives, to protect Monterey County now and prevent further youth tobacco use. As a longtime member of the County Tobacco Control Coalition, I thank you for this ordinance, and I ask you to please pass the ordinance as written. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wheelis. Next, we have Claudia Martinez.
Hi, good afternoon. Excuse me, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. I was just, I'm a resident, and I also have actually spoken to quite a few people that either support retailers or are the actual retailers, and there are some concerns. I'm a parent. I am not pro tobacco. I don't smoke. I teach my kids not to smoke. I will say, though, that after speaking to a few retailers who unfortunately many times are not able to attend these meetings because they are working and don't have, extra staff to send, I felt compelled to speak today because they have concerns. Some of these retailers own stores in several cities, so the enforcement dates may get, slightly confused, and they, want to follow the law, of course. So I was just, on behalf of them, hoping that the enforcement date could be January 1st, 2023, along with the state, which, the flavor ban in November will most likely pass. And not just to help them because of everything they've already had to deal with the pandemic and the loss of money, but if they aren't going to completely lose their stores, they will have to figure out ways to make up for that loss. And that may mean somehow expanding, maybe getting additional refrigeration for food and drinks. And that's not something that can be done overnight or even in just a few weeks. That will require permit.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Martinez. Next, we have Alex from California. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Chair Adams. Good afternoon, board members. My name's Alex Winston. I'm with Parents Against Vaping. On behalf of our organization, I just want to sincerely thank the board for doing the right thing and bringing this ordinance back with no exemptions. Your efforts will create a legacy of health equity and prevent future generations from suffering the deadly consequences of nicotine addiction and tobacco-related disease. Despite misinformation about criminalization through sales restrictions, we appreciate your ordinance for clearly being written to only regulate the sale of these products and not the possession of them. The last reports that came out about the cost of smoking to communities in California totaled $13.1 billion to the cost of Californians, whether they smoke or not. So we also want to thank you for taking this item up and putting a dent in that number so that it doesn't cost our communities all of these hundreds and hundreds of dollars in health insurance benefits and loss of productivity due to tobacco-related disease. Thank you for your time. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much for talking to us today. Next, we have Sheila Fawn. If you could please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Thank you, supervisors. My name is Sheila Fan and I represent Breathe California. As an organization, we want to thank the board as we are elated to see the comprehensive ordinance being proposed without previous exemptions of MRTP and single-use ESDs. In an article posted on the County of Monterey's website in December of 2021, the 2019 to 2020 California Student Tobacco Survey found that of the prevalence of vaping among middle school and high school students, 96% of youth users are using a flavored tobacco product. Let's not wait until November of 2022 when SB 793 will be addressed at the state level. Local ordinances can and should go well beyond what the state proposes, as this is a huge issue that we are unfortunately seeing affecting our most vulnerable populations within Monterey County, being our individuals of color, individuals who are living at or below the federal poverty line, our LGBTQIA plus community, as well as the youth who represent the future of Monterey County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fan. Next, we have Lindsay Freitas. Please press *6 to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and Supervisors. Lindsay Freitas with the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids here in strong support of a comprehensive policy to end the sale of all flavored tobacco products in Monterey County. We cannot afford to wait. Prohibiting the sale of all flavored tobacco products in all tobacco retailers is a critical step that will help protect children living in Monterey County from the unrelenting efforts by the tobacco industry to hook them to a deadly addiction. The industry has worked at every level to thwart this effort and protect their profits. They've even spent $20 million to stall the statewide policy, opening the door for them to continue to target our youth and communities of color. Flavored tobacco products are designed to alter the taste and reduce the harshness of tobacco products so they're more appealing and easy for beginners who are almost always kids. These products are pervasive and are marketed and sold in a variety of kid-friendly flavors. With their colorful packaging and sweet flavors, flavored tobacco products are often hard to distinguish from the candy displays near which they are frequently placed. In California, 9 out of 10 high school tobacco users report using a flavored product, and we can't let that continue. I ask the board to end the sale of all flavored tobacco. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Ms. Freitas. Next, we have Rima Khoury. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
All right. Good afternoon, Monterey Board of Supervisors. My name is Rima Khoury. I'm General Counsel for Fumari, which is a hookah tobacco manufacturer. I'm also one of the founding members of the National Hookah Community Association, which was established to protect and preserve the rich cultural tradition of hookah. If their board's goal is to protect youth from flavored tobacco products, that would not be achieved by banning hookah tobacco, because of the low prevalence of youth usage of hookah tobacco. According to the FDA 2020 industry guidance, although the FDA sees a correlation between flavored tobacco products and youth usage, they do not see the same correlation between youth usage and hookah tobacco. According to the 2020 CDC survey, hookah tobacco use amongst high schoolers is one of the lowest at 2.7%. And that's on a national level. According to the California teen survey, That number is even lower at 1.7%. Hookah is not the problem with youth, and there's a reason why. Hookahs are traditionally 3 feet tall and difficult to conceal in your backpack and wallet and pocket. In addition, it costs over $200 for all of the 10 parts and components, which is above what most children can spend. In addition to that, it takes 20 to 30 minutes to set up, so you can't set it up in the bathroom at school. We ask that the Monterey County mirror SB 793 and exempt hookah tobacco in 21 and over establishments. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Nicole Turkson. Please press *6. There we go.
Hi, good afternoon, board. My name is Nicole Turkson, and I am with the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council. We advocate for the Black community and other communities of color who have been left out of life-saving public health legislation, especially at the national level. The fact is that the 2009 Federal Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act prohibited all flavored cigarettes and exempted menthol. This was the unjust and racist act that has maintained health disparities within the African American community and other communities of color. While other groups experience the proven public health benefits that come from removing deadly flavored tobacco from the community, people of color who use menthol cigarettes because of predatory marketing by the tobacco industry don't experience that. The fact is that 85% of African American smokers use menthol cigarettes, and 45,000 African Americans die each year from tobacco-related diseases. And this is more than alcohol, AIDS, car accidents, illegal drugs, murders, and suicides combined. So I just want to thank the council for taking up this issue and for proposing an ordinance without any exceptions. Hookah is also arising as a public health issue in communities of color, especially the African American community, using hip hop culture as a primary marketing tactic. So once again, just want to enforce the importance of not exempting any flavored tobacco products and thank the board once again. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Turkson. Next, we have Brian McCarthy, and then our final speaker will be Jaime Rojas.
Thank you, Board of Supervisors, through the chair. Thank you to the county for the hard work on this ordinance, and I want to express my strongest support for the ordinance as written. I do not support any exemption for hookah. I would suggest for any folks that may be confused about the general age group that use hookah to visit one of our hookah establishments in the county and just kind of judge for yourself. The hookah that I purchased in Iraq fits in a backpack and is set up in minutes. So maybe I have a different kind. I first smoked hookah at a fairly young age. I've never actually smoked a cigarette, but it was hookah that was a little bit more attractive to me as a youngster. So I can only speak from my own experience. But again, I do support this ordinance. I think it's something that each supervisor who votes to adopt the ordinance can go to bed at night and be very proud of. And thank you so much for the hard work.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Next, we have Jaime Rojas. And if
Good afternoon, Chair and fellow board supervisors. My name is Jaime Rojas with the National Association of Tobacco Outlets, representing the 25 retailers in the county jurisdiction. We do not support the ban as is, but we're asking for the Board of Supervisors to give the retailers time to be able to change their opportunities to be able to find other sources of revenue in their retail stores. As we all know that in November, the referendum is coming on the statewide flavor ban. We've asked the board to wait until until that referendum comes and the voters vote, which would most probably pass. So at least we're asking for the recommendation and a courtesy from the board to begin the enforcement date of this ban in accordance and the same time as the state ban, which is January 1st of 2023. We appreciate the consideration and hope that this can be added as an amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rojas. And now our final speaker will be from the American Cancer Society, grassroots manager. And
yes,
ready to go.
You.
Thank you, Jen.
Yes. Good afternoon, supervisors. I'm Jen Granlahana with the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. I'm the Government Relations Director for Northern California. including Monterey County. And we really applaud your decision at the last meeting to bring back a comprehensive form of this ordinance to end the sale of all flavored tobacco product with no exemptions. This certainly will go far to protect youth from the tobacco industry, which I believe was the intent of the ordinance. And I want to assure you that the evidence around this issue supports this policy. In jurisdictions that have adopted ordinances like this, we're up to over 117 now, so you're in good company. We have not seen stores close because of this policy. They can still sell many unflavored tobacco products. And we can't wait for the state. Locals have always led the way in tobacco control policy. And so we ask that you do that in Monterey County. Any exemption for a certain product or flavor is only a loophole for the tobacco industry to exploit. And if we wait, that's only more youth, high schoolers, even middle schoolers who are turning to these flavored tobacco products to start while we deal with the politics from the tobacco industry. So that's why we urge you today to adopt the policy as written with no exemptions and no delay. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We'll bring it back to the board now. We have a motion and a second, and I'd like to go ahead and call for a roll call vote.
Supervisor Alejo?
Aye.
Supervisor Phillips?
Aye.
Supervisor Lopez?
Aye.
Supervisor Root Askew?
Aye.
And Chair Supervisor Adams?
Aye. Thank you very much for that item, and we will happily move on to item number 26, which is to adopt a resolution of necessity finding and determining the public interest and the Davis Road Bridge Replacement and Road Widening Project. I would expect that we have a presentation from staff on this item.
Civil engineer.
Thank you.
Enrique Saavedra, who will be providing the presentation for today. And then when the presentation is completed, staff will be available for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Saavedra on the line. Okay. Enrique. Hello, Joanne. I'm looking for Enrique Saavedra.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors.
There
I'm
you
Enrique
are.
Saavedra, Monterey County Public Works. Sorry, I had too many unmute buttons to unclick here. Anyway, again, thank you for your time. The item before you is to adopt a resolution of necessity for the Davis Road Bridge project. And the resolution is to determine that the public interest and necessity require that the road bridge project is needed, and that the project is planned or located in a manner that will be most compatible with the greatest good and least private injury, and the property sought is required for the project. And so that's what we have, and then I'll share my screen here.
We're not seeing your shared screen, Enrique.
Okay, let's see here. How about
Yes.
now?
Okay, yes, we have it now. Thank you.
So again, this is I'll give you an overview of the presentation here. I'll start with the background of the project. The project proposes to widen Davis Road from Blanco to Reservation Road. This widening is in conformance to the Marina Salinas multimodal corridor. The project mainly consists of widening, like I said, Davis Road from 2 to 4 lanes, constructing a 4-lane bridge over the Salinas River, including where the work is improvements to the intersection of Davis and Reservation, as well as Foster and Hitchcock, as well as bicycle improvements along the shoulders of Davis Road, and some transit improvements at the intersection of Davis and Blanco to facilitate the use of transit during high traffic volumes. The project right now is in a right-of-way phase. We've completed 95% of the plans and specs. We've also completed the EIR and NEPA phase of the project. In the right-of-way phase, we are trying to obtain easements from 16 different parcels. We've secured the easements from 5 parcels, so there's 11 to go. And on those remaining 11, we present offers to the property owners, and we're in the middle of negotiating the contract language as well as the purchase price. Just to give an idea of this particular parcel we're talking about, we call the Linscott parcel. It's total, on your screen here, it's this L-shaped parcel here. And the easements we're looking to obtain are along the frontage of Davis Road and a little bit on Hitchcock. The total area looking to obtain for the road purposes is about 2.9 acres, as well as 1.6 acres for the overhead utilities and gas lines. There are along Davis Road. These existing utilities that we're looking just to move over to make room for the road widening. This parcel is owned by a number of owners. They hold their ownership in trust and trustees of trust, and namely like George L. Davis and Susan E. Scott. But they number over a couple dozen owners are on title, and so one of the complications we have is that some of the property owners are not in the area, and so therefore we have to work with their attorney to get so much communication with the property owners. And so to help us with that, we've hired Overland, Pacific, and Cutler to assist us in not only the appraisals but also in the negotiations with them. However, it is taking longer than anticipated, and the delay it puts us in jeopardy of losing some of the federal funding that we have earmarked for the bridge part of the project. We hope that with this resolution, adopting this resolution, we're able to continue having those funds set aside for the project. At least that's the direction we received from Caltrans, local assistance office. And so if the board adopts this resolution, we would forward that resolution to Caltrans to indicate that we're looking to pursue the project and obtain all the easement necessary. Now, if I could back up a little bit here on this parcel, like I said, we've been talking to the attorney who represents the property owners, and like I mentioned to them, we are committed to trying to resolve this negotiations, outside of without needing to go to court or amending process. However, we do think it'll take a couple more weeks, time that we can't wait, given the lengthy process involved with Caltrans. So that's the reason we are asking the board to adopt this resolution. Again, we're asking the board to adopt the resolution necessity for the Davis Road Bridge project. And I'm available to answer any questions there may be.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saavedra. Come to the board first and see if there's anyone who has questions. None from Supervisor Askew. Supervisor Phillips, any questions? And I do not see any hands raised online. Supervisor Lopez or Supervisor Alejo, not seeing any. And I am not seeing any participants. If you could let me know if you see the same thing I do. Great. Okay. So with that in mind, I'll bring it back to the board to see if we can have a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Thank you. A second.
Second.
Thank you. I have a Phillips and Root Askew. Could we call for a roll call vote, please?
Supervisor Alejo.
Aye.
Supervisor Phillips.
Aye.
Supervisor Lopez.
Aye.
Supervisor Root Askew.
Aye.
And Chair Supervisor Adams.
Aye. Thank you so very much for that. Nice and easy. We'll go on now to item number 27, which is consider adoption of an ordinance amending sections 12.12010 of Title 12 of Monterey County Code to revise, uphold, and adopt speed limits on various county road segments. And I am expecting that we will have a presentation on this probably from Mr. Chad Alineo, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, Mr. Alineo, are you out there?
I am out here. Good afternoon, Chair Adams and Board of Supervisors. If I may share my screen, I do have a brief presentation for everyone.
Great, thank you.
I hope everyone can see that.
Yes, thank you very much.
Welcome. I'm Chad Alineo, Senior Civil Engineer with the Monterey County Public Works Facilities and Parks Department. I'm presenting to you consideration of adoption of an ordinance amending Title 12 of the Monterey County Code to revise, uphold, and/or adopt speed limits on various county roadways. An overview of my presentation, it will cover very briefly the purpose and process, the results of our studies, and if you have any questions, I can certainly help and answer anything. First, I'd like to present the regulatory framework that applies to establishing speed limits. A variety of codes do apply, as noted before you and in our staff report. California state law under the Vehicle Code does require certain studies to be conducted to establish limits. The California Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices also applies as state guidelines related to signage of said roadways, and Monterey County Code Title 12, as noted previously, provides the local codification that applies to speeds. This element is one of the more critical points, as I'll get to a little bit later. Generally, the process in establishing speeds is that a engineering and traffic survey be conducted to take a look at road conditions and basically free flow operations of the roadways. A ENTS, Engineering and Traffic Survey report, is prepared that takes a look at all the different conditions that were analyzed and presents a recommendation for speed limits within the guidelines of the state recommendations. And as noted previously, the process here requires codification of said recommendations. This allows enforceability of the new speed limits if approved. So we studied a number of road segments this round. A total of 49 road segments were looked at in this batch that's being presented to you. Of those, 36 road segments are recommended to have no change in the speed limit. 9 of those segments will have a reduction in speed based on the data that was collected. In general, no speeds will be increased as part of this batch of roadways that was studied. Of note, 4 additional segments were also looked at and will be getting newly established speed limits, for which speed limits were not set up previously. Also of note, not every segment was looked at. We do have quite a number of roadways throughout the area. So in this batch, we are presenting our findings. There may be additional updates to Title 12 with subsequent groups of roadways for future review. Based on the findings of our studies, staff recommends adoption of the ordinance as presented in the staff report to amend Title 12 of the Monterey County Code to establish speed limits on the sections that have been identified again on the tables and attachments presented before you. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lineo. I will see if there are any questions from my colleagues. Looking toward Supervisor Phillips, Supervisor Rudascu, Supervisor Lopez, and Supervisor Alejo. Hearing none, we'll go out to the public and seeing if there is a member of the public who would like to comment on this item.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. I would just want to express my personal appreciation to staff for including Flanders Drive on the set of speed limit changes. It's something that the residents there have been really requesting for some time. So I was very happy to see it on there. And I appreciate all of the efforts, Chad, that you did, and also Randy Misterishi that you did as well. So thank you. And with that, we have a motion and a second. If we could get a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Alejo.
Aye.
Supervisor Phillips.
Aye.
Supervisor Lopez.
Aye.
Supervisor Rudascu.
Aye.
And Chair Supervisor Adams.
Aye. Thank you so very much. So we have completed item number 27, moving forward with item 28. And on this item, we're going to be considering adopting a policy on board committees, including rotation rotating appointments to the board standing committees and making regular appointments to the board standing committees and non-county entities for 2022. And I believe that we will have a presentation from our wonderful county counsel, Mr. Les Gerard.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, members of the board. I have a PowerPoint presentation. I'll do my best to be brief. I know you would very much like to go to the service and okay, so by way of background, on February 8th, the board directed staff to return with a board policy setting rotating appointments to board standing committees. Appointments to the ad hoc committees were actually made in early January, and interim appointments to the non-county entities were also made in early January, basically carrying over the appointments from last calendar year. 2022 appointments still need to be made to the non-county entities. So the recommendation is to consider adopting an overall board policy on committees and non-county entities. I determined to draft an overall policy since the board really doesn't have one, has never had one, at least in my experience, and the board last addressed the committee structure back in 2010 and only superficially at the time. So the draft policy that is in the agenda packet includes the establishment of committees and provides for tracking and additions and deletions. Ad hoc committees are designed to be temporary. As you can see, basically a one-year lifespan with, in unique circumstances, an 18-month lifespan. The draft policy sets forth the non-county entities, the current ones, to which the board makes appointments and provides for tracking and additions and deletions. It establishes annual appointments for non-county entities and appointments to ad hoc committees at time of formation. And it describes a rotational appointment process for standing committees with term limits. The current ad hoc committee structure is before you: Animal Services, COVID-19 Agricultural, COVID-19 Communications, COVID-19 Hospitality, the Downtown MOU, and the Housing Authority. The current standing committee list is now before you: Alternative Energy and Environment, Budget, Cannabis, Capital Improvement, Economic Opportunity, Equal Opportunity, Health, Housing, and Human Services, and a new Homelessness Committee, Human Resources, Legislative, the Monterey Urban County Standing Committee, and the Water Resources Agency Joint Boards Leadership. So I'll try to describe the rotational appointment process. So the board will decide when the rotation will start. And that's one of the questions. Does it start this year or does it start in 2023? Question of term limits. Is it 2 years or 3-year term limits? There was discussion about that last meeting. Do we start the rotation alphabetically by district or do a random draw to determine which committee will begin the rotation? And I'll have a graphic that will explain that a little bit better later in the presentation. And also to establish certain exceptions to the rotation. For example, the supervisor from District 3 to be a standing member of the Cannabis Committee with the other position rotating. The supervisor appointed to the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers, which is a non-county entity appointment, to be a standing member of the Homelessness Committee with the remaining position rotating. And the supervisor from either District 3 or 4 to be a member of the Monterey Urban County Committee with the remaining position rotating, or whether 3 and 4 should be standing members of that committee. And then supervisors from District 2 and 3 to be standing members of the Water Resources Agency Joint Leadership Committee. So here's a graphic that more or less describes the rotation with 2-year terms. And we start at the top alphabetically with the Alternative Energy Committee and then goes alphabetically through the list. And you can see we start with districts 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5. So that ends up with a 2-year term eventually after the first year. And then similarly rotating through the districts with the exceptions as I previously described. The Homelessness Committee We need to determine who that standing member will be on an annual basis, because that is an appointee to one of the non-county entities. And you can see the Monterey Urban County Standing Committee has 3 and 4 in here, but with a rotation that allows other supervisors to participate. And then the Joint Boards Leadership Committee with the standing members. And then back up at the Cannabis Committee, District 3 is a standing member of that committee. Here's a graphic with a rotation with 3-year terms. It basically does the same thing. Again, this is alphabetically, but it gives you a 3-year term for supervisors after the first year. And then here's the random committee selection process. So I would propose that the chair of the board does a random draw. And in this example, the name of the Economic Opportunity Committee is drawn. And so we start the rotational process with that committee, go through alphabetically, and then go back to the top. So that's the idea of the random draw. It just determines which committee will start the rotational process. So the board action requested today is, do you want to adopt the policy? When will it be effective, this calendar year or next? What are the length of terms? Do you approve the exceptions that have been described? And does the rotation start alphabetically or with a random draw? You also need to approve the non-county entity appointments for 2022. And I'll put up a graphic to go through those in a minute too. Supervisor Askew actually had some recommendations which I want to bring to the board's attention. She requested that a specific intent statement be included in the policy, and that's easy enough to draft. I think the intent is to provide even opportunity for all supervisors to participate in the broad range of the committees. She also recommends that the appointee to the Remote Access Network, or RAN, which is a non-county entity appointment, must be the chair of the board pursuant to the RAN bylaws, I believe it is, or founding documents. She also recommends that District 4 and District 5 be appointees to the Waste Management District and the Seaside Water Master, because those entities are within those district boundaries.
I think that's the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District.
No, that's the Waste Management District, I believe.
Waste Management.
Yeah, Waste Management District. And then District 1 and 3 be appointees to Salinas Valley Recycles, because those districts are in the jurisdictional boundaries of that JPA. So let me actually share a different screen for a moment. Right. That's just
okay. Thank you.
Right.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see. Where'd my cursor go? Here we go. Sorry for the delay. So the chair actually does have recommendations for the non-county entity appointments. And this is the old title that it was called agencies, JPAs, and miscellaneous appointments. And I've retitled it non-county entities. And it's basically the status quo with a couple of changes. Supervisor Askew to 3CE. And actually, this is the board of directors, not the policy board. Supervisor Askew would take the place of Supervisor Phillips. Supervisor Adams would go to the EMS committee. Supervisor Askew to the Military and Veterans Affairs Advisory Commission. Let's see. And
We disagree with that.
well, the board will need to vote on this, so I'm just describing what the chair's recommendation is. Again, the Water
Supervisor
Management
Phillips.
District, board of directors is the resident of the district, and that would be Supervisor Adams. The Policy Advisory Committee and Technical Advisory Committee, Supervisor Adams to the Policy Advisory Committee with Eric Lundquist, the staff appointment to the TAC. The Parks Commission is being deleted. And then the Seaside Basin Water Master is recommended to be Supervisors Askew and Adams. So those are the
Sorry,
chair's
you missed
recommendations.
the Parks Commission, which was Supervisor Phillips. If you go up, that I think we missed that one. It's
That was being deleted.
keep going up.
That's it right there.
I think it's the Parks Committee then. Just keep going up. I think we've missed it.
Was he trying?
There it
Is he
is, right
trying to delete me?
We're trying to give you parks. You wanted parks.
I
There
feel
you
like I'm at home.
Monterey County
Oh,
Parks Commission.
Supervisor Phillips.
Got it.
Okay, so
Thank
it was
you.
a duplicate. My apologies. And then there are appointments to TAMC, and then the Workforce Development Board. The chair is recommending Supervisor Alejo. The chair also has recommendations. The chair also has recommendations if the board does not adopt the rotational policy. She has recommendations for standing committee appointments for 2022, but I thought we could wait and see what the board's direction was with respect to the standing committee appointment process. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to try to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for doing such a comprehensive, clear presentation on this very challenging subject. I really, really thank you for all of the work and time and thought that you put into this. I'll go to my colleagues and see if there's anyone who wishes to make have a question or make a comment. I'm looking for hands. Okay. I'm seeing no hands, although.
You have a couple raised on Zoom.
Thank you so much. Okay, I don't know why I'm not seeing them. Okay, great. Okay, so we'll start with who we have first up. Supervisor Alejo. Thank you.
I just wanted to express, I hope we could take these up separate votes on standing committees and then on the non-county agency, JPA, and miscellaneous appointments. I'm not going to be able to support this proposal. I would ask that there's only 10 more months left in this calendar year in Supervisor Phillips's tenure with us. I would ask that we keep status quo on the standing committees and on the non-county agency meetings as proposed here under this chart that Les just explained. I would use my active participation and leadership, not only on the Cannabis Committee, but on the Budget Committee. And I think we already had a previous discussion on and a vote that we were keeping homelessness with Health, Housing, and Human Services Committee because homelessness it is intertwined very closely with Health, Housing, and Human Services Committee. And both Supervisor Lopez and I, who have been members of the committee, can attest, we do not have enough action items to even split this up. I think we are whole, and we are even struggling with having the 4 policy issues on one committee rather than trying to split them up and try to address homelessness without including all other services under the Department of Social Services, under the Health Department, and under our Housing and Community Development that go along with homelessness. It seems like we're creating a different silo for something that it's already included and it's in the same page on the same conversation with the other critical components for addressing our homelessness crisis in Monterey County. On the non-county appointments, I just wanted to express the two changes there. I mean, I joined and I actively wanted to participate in the Military and Veterans Affairs Commission ever since I joined, and the commissioners that participate would tell you that they've never had a supervisor who attends every single meeting with my staff. We've been active participants and actively engaging and bringing new proposals forward on behalf of veterans. But this is a critical time for me because we are working on bringing a veterans home to Monterey County. And I've been actively working with Jason and our other county staff to build support, get support letters from all the area county boards of supervisors, different cities, different veterans organizations, meeting with our state and federal agencies. And it's not an easy lift here. We're getting some pushback from state bureaucrats. And so this is a critical time that I need to be working closely with the commissioners on the Military and Veterans Affairs Advisory Commission if we are to prevail. So I would ask that I continue to serve on here for at least another year or 2 years at a critical time when we're trying to get legislation off the ground. The only other change there was trying to add me to the Workforce Development Board. I am not accepting that. That is Supervisor Adams's responsibility, and I don't it shouldn't be pushed on other supervisors if she's no longer wanting to participate on that particular board. So I would respectfully decline that appointment, but I would ask my colleagues to allow me to continue to serve on the Veterans and Military Affairs Commission, as we are just trying to get this work off the ground on this new proposal that will take quite some effort. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Supervisor Alejo. Supervisor Lopez.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just, I'm looking at this, I'm just a little confused only based on some of the language that was used. Les, you mentioned some additional recommendations. One of those was to make it so that District 1 and 3 were the appointments to the Solid Waste Authority. But a lot of that work that's happening right now is in District 2. And I've been working closely with John. So I guess I felt like it got a little muddled there, where then we got suggestions from another supervisor through staff. So I'm just trying to divide the issues. Can you lay out what is on the table and then what's not, and we're merely suggestions, because that recommendation is in conflict with what's in your slides.
So Supervisor, I apologize if there's any confusion. Everything is actually on the table in terms of the standing committee appointments and the non-county entity appointments, because those have not been made yet. So I think I'll turn to Supervisor Askew, but her recommendation was that the supervisors in whose districts are within the jurisdiction of Salinas Valley Recycles be on that committee. And I guess I didn't realize that District 2 is part of that jurisdictional boundary also. We could make, it could be Districts 2 and 3, or a combination of Districts 1, 2, and 3 on that committee. That would be easy enough to do, but that's up to the board.
Yeah, and I currently serve as the alternate on that list, so we do all have a role.
And I would just say, given that we're creating, my suggestions were just that if we're going to create a policy, I just wanted to make sure that all of the specifics were included as reference in the policy that we're creating.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like overall the concept of rotating on the assignments was something we were starting to get behind to a degree. I had heard some coalescing around the concept of 3 years, and today I feel like we're just kind of now piling in a bunch of new stuff. And I get it. There's other things that need to be addressed in terms of assignments. For me, it's all a bit much today, given the way that it's coming forward. I'm still supportive, I guess, at this point, if we're going to move forward on a 3-year rotating basis. I'm got a lot of questions on those other assignments, and I'm just not sure that I can support some of those pieces that were thrown out there today without, more information, because it's not, the way this is coming forward seems like it's all a little backwards at this point, and creating policies are good in principle, but if then right away we're not following them, I don't know. It all seems kind of cart before the horse to me. But again, overall, I'm supportive of moving towards 3 years rotating on the internals. On those externals, there's still questions. It feels like we're trying to back into something that I don't know that there's support for. So I think bifurcating the issue moving forward is going to be important.
Thank you for your comments, Supervisor Lopez. Supervisor Askew.
Thank you. So I think that's the slide that you had. There is a lot of information that was presented, and to me, it's very clear. We're creating a policy. We're trying to just make sure we're documenting the current practices that happen, and we're making some minor change. We're making a change to how we appoint to board standing committees. all of the other non-county entities, which I was referencing and which Supervisor Lopez was referencing, we're just codifying what they are and which members have responsibility there. But if we could maybe pull the slide back up that showed the decision points that we're being asked to provide direction on today, I think that might be helpful. And to that point, the first one that I have down here is whether we would start rotation in 2022 or wait until 2023. I'm comfortable with either option. I heard one comment in support of starting with a 2023 rotation. If that's the will of the board, I'm comfortable with that. The 2 or 3 year term question, I think 3 years makes more sense than a 2 year term. It would allow us to have more continuity, which I know is something that we've valued with the current ways that terms have been served. So I think that would be my preference, would be a 3 year term. Establishing exceptions to the rotation, I think that all of those make a lot of sense. Having the supervisor from District 3 be a member of the Cannabis Committee, I think that absolutely makes sense. Having the supervisor who's appointed to the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers Leadership Council also be a member of the Homeless Committee, I think that makes perfect sense. And I think that there could be more going on with that committee as we hire a homeless coordinator role, which is what we're moving forward with. I think that having, did I miss one of them too? Starting with the rotation alphabetically or by district or by random draw. I don't necessarily have a preference for that. Although if I look at the chart that's listed here, I would hope that we could, once we decide what we start with, that there would be opportunity to engage in some conversation and maybe make some trades among ourselves. I think that may be something I'd be interested in. The Monterey Urban Standing Committee, I think that looks fine. I think that the supervisor from District 2 currently serves on that, so I'm not sure why we didn't include maybe a rotation of the 3 districts. And then the final one here about Water Resources Agency. I don't have strong opinions. I do believe, though, that there is a role that Water Resource Agency may touch other districts as well. So if there's discussion about that, I'm open to that discussion. But I think those were the communication, the decision points that we had today, and I just wanted to make sure I was clearly articulating. And I really appreciate Supervisor Adams, you bringing this forward. I think it is a really important step for Monterey County to take in terms of how we model good governance, in terms of how we as a board start the year off working in partnership with each other. I think that the opportunity to explicitly state that we share responsibilities for policymaking through our committee assignments is important. And it will create an opportunity for us also to, as a board, to have relationship with one another when those times come that we want to trade committee assignments. I think that there's a lot of good that will come from our implementation of this policy. So thank you, Supervisor Adams, and thank you, County Council, for doing the work to bring it forward to us.
Thank you. Before I go to Supervisor Phillips, I just wanted to make a comment that as a reminder, one of the reasons that we're doing this is to provide more equity among all of the committee appointments. And as a reminder, I want to say that District 1 Supervisor Alejo serves on 6 standing committees. District 2 Supervisor Phillips serves on 4 standing committees. District 3 Supervisor Lopez serves on 6 standing committees. District 4 Supervisor Askew serves on 4 standing committees. And at this time, District 5, I serve on only 2 standing committees. So the action that we were taking is, in addition to the many other things of depoliticizing the process, is an attempt to provide better balance for the committee assignments. Supervisor Phillips, would you like to comment on this?
Well, I don't think it's a bad thing so we don't have this confrontation every year or so, that to have a rotation, some fair rotation. I tend to agree with my colleagues that a 3-year rotation, I think, is more appropriate than 2. I think, and I don't have an opinion. My opinion would be carry out this year with minor changes and start it next year. Since I won't be here, I don't have to worry about it.
Thanks a lot.
I do think that that it might be a good thing for once the random changes are imposed to have some discussion of some people that want to trade and stay on one assignment versus the other. That might encourage us to do. Some of us feel strongly about things. I know Supervisor, but I did feel and I did support the thing when we would pull homeless out. I did think that with the new homeless coordinator coming in, that we should have a separate committee for that. But at least on your one for this year, you had Supervisor Alejo on the homeless as well as the other one. So, and just Supervisor Alejo wasn't happy about being economic things. Or not economic workforce development. If someone else doesn't want that, I'd be glad to do that. That's something I would have liked to have been on for some time. So.
Thank you, Supervisor Phillips, for your comments.
Mayor, if I could just
Yes.
comment briefly, the policy as drafted does provide for the ability of supervisors to swap and also for a supervisor to decline without the swap. So there's that policy written in.
Thank you. Before we come back for a little roundup, I will go out to the public and see if there's any member of the public who would like to comment on this item. I'll need your help with this. Okay, doesn't look as if we have anyone on Zoom. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment? Seeing no one coming forward, let's bring it back to the board. And I don't know if Supervisor Wendy would ask you have legacy hands or new hands. Looks like Supervisor Lopez continues to have his hand up. Would you like to make some additional comments, Chris?
Yeah, I just had one additional comment, and that was supporting, John's recommendation of starting next year. I heard Supervisor asked you state that she'd be supportive of that as well. So I just wanted to go on the record for that.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is propose making a series of motions, and I'll need my county council to tell me if this is correct or not. First, I want to thank everybody for their discussion on this, and particularly to county council for being able to do all of this wonderful making this clear. Sausage, yes, you've made it beautifully. So I won't repeat my comments from last year. I just do feel like we do all have a shared responsibility for oversight of the public's ongoing business. And one of the best ways of doing that is ensuring that we all have an opportunity to serve on all of the different committees that we have. I think I would like to take a look at doing votes on things that we know that we have agreement on. So I would entertain a motion. Tell me if I can do it this way, Mr. Council. Wendy, your hand. Okay. So my first subject for which we would have a motion is to agree that we would do a rotating process and that it would be a 3-year term. So Supervisor Askew, is that a motion?
Thank you. Yep. So I think I'm going to motion that we approve the policy with the guidance of a 3-year term starting in 2023 with the exceptions as noted and the corrections as noted to the non-county entities.
If I might suggest, leave the non-county entities for a separate vote. Let's just deal with the standing committee assignments.
Okay, well, so if we're adopting the policy, as I'm holding the policy here, the policy does reference the
It establishes the non-county entities, but doesn't provide for the appointments.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But just with the corrections that were noted about that you had in your first slide.
Correct.
That showed that the district, that the Salinas Valley Waste Authority would be whoever sits in that district.
Right.
That the RAND board matches the RAND board guidelines. So it's I'll just restate that we adopt the policy as presented with the start rotation of 2023 in a 3-year term.
So I wanted to know if you'll listen to this. I really want to be able to support this motion, but I'm struggling with having it start next year. I don't know why we can't go ahead and start it this year. The whole board might change next year and a new idea may come in. And I feel like if we could at least try it for this year, we will have kinks worked out by the time we get to next year. So I'd be happy to support your motion if we could have that off the table. We will probably have to vote on that additionally today, but to vote on the policy and the 3-year and the exceptions, I would like to be able to support that. And I would be happy to second that motion.
Okay, I guess if there's a third vote to support a start year of 2022, I heard three in support of 2023. That's why I went with that. But I'm happy.
2023 also.
I'll make the motion for 2022, and if we need to do a secondary motion, we can do that.
It doesn't sound like I have a hope for 2022. So let's go ahead with 2023.
Okay, I was just trying to line us up where we could have a successful motion. So my motion once again is to adopt the policy as presented with the start rotation for 2023 with 3-year terms, with the exceptions as noted.
And I will second that. Okay, so we have that as a motion. Are there any additional comments before we go for a roll call vote? Okay, let's have a roll call vote on that, please.
Supervisor Alejo?
Aye.
Supervisor Phillips?
Aye.
Supervisor Lopez?
Aye.
Supervisor Root Askew?
Aye.
And Chair Supervisor Adams.
Aye. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to know we're going to be rotating. This is terrific. Okay, so the next thing I would like to vote on would be the Homeless Committee, whether we want to have a separate committee for the homeless group or not.
Chair, technically, the Homeless Committee was established with the last vote because it was in the policy that you adopted.
Oh, okay, so we've already done that. Okay, thank you for that. What other things have we agreed upon in the policy? Do we have a random start or do we need to talk about that?
So you could defer the question of how to start if you want to until later in the year. But the two options are just start alphabetically at the top or have a random draw and start whatever committee is drawn.
How do I ensure that what we are just voting on now will be implemented in 2023?
You can't ensure it because it's just a resolution and another board could change it.
So
honestly.
this has all been essentially moot.
Not necessarily. I mean, you'll have 4 board members continuing on. Even if you were to start this year, it could change. So the only way to limit the ability to change it would be to adopt an ordinance that would codify it, but that can also be undone by a different board. So there's really no way to ensure that it can't change in the future.
I just hope all of this effort has not been for naught.
What?
I said, I hope that all of this effort has not been for naught.
Well.
Okay. So at any rate, we have those things decided. That therefore, we need to go back now and deal with the committee appointments for 2022. Because
well, do you want to defer the how you start the rotation till a later discussion, or do you want to decide that today? We're getting, it's like 2:45, and I know you wanted to stop.
Why don't
so
we
the other decision points are making standing committee appointments for this year.
Yes.
And then non-county entity appointments for this year.
Yes, I think those two things are more important actually than how we start. So although I'm disappointed that we aren't going forward this year, I'm just glad that we have it on the books so that we will begin it in perhaps fiscal year 2022-23. So what I would like to do now is go through the chair's recommended assignments as we have the opportunity to do, as I have the opportunity to do in my role as chair. And that was in attachment 5. So I think it would be best if we went through and took a roll call vote for each of the different appointments so that we can ensure that we all get to hear and vote on what it is that we were putting forward. And if you'd like, you could put that chart back up on your screen.
Where is it?
It's attachment 5.
Yeah, no, I've got it up. I have to. Here it is.
Okay, so why don't I go ahead and start, and I'll be making the motion, and I'm hoping that I will get a second to these. I would be appointing Supervisor Adams to the Alternate Energy and Environmental Committee, replacing Supervisor Askew. Is there a second to that?
Why don't we just go down and see? Most of them, there's not much contention about. Why don't we just see if
there are any that we
oppose any of those?
So there are only 2 where changes are proposed, and then there's the new Homelessness Committee.
Okay. All right, so the first one would be, so let's just take it as a slate then. I'll make a motion then to approve the chair's recommended assignments in attachment 5. Is there a second to that?
Well, I'd like to hear any further comments, but I do think the chair ought to have the right to make a few changes in the year. So for want of a better purpose, I'll second it at this time. So to wait till I hear any further comments.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to accept the slate as it is up on the screen now. Is there any further comment on this?
Yeah, and I'll make a substitute motion that we keep status quo till next year, as that's when the rotation is going to start. We only have 10 more months in this calendar year, and there's some important issues that we got going in the Cannabis Committee, and I would ask that we remain on there to follow through on them. Supervisor Lopez and I have worked arduously on that committee and making recommendations, needed changes. We've been following the changes in the market, certainly bringing forward, adjusting our cannabis tax rate, and knowing that might even change in the next few months before the end of the fiscal year. So I would ask to remain on that committee. So the motion is keeping status quo up until next year when the committees are set to rotate.
And I'll second that substitute motion.
Supervisor Rudesky, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I can't, I guess a handful of things. I have so many thoughts here. So let me just start with where I was at. I hear Supervisor Alejo's interest in staying on the Military and Veterans Affairs Commission. And I think that the work that is underway is significant and meaningful, and I wouldn't want to upset that, that work. So I was going to offer either to trade if we did proceed with the chair's recommendations, or to defer to Supervisor Alejo on that committee. But I do think that there are other changes here that are significant and would be important. And I would like to be able to support the chair's recommendation. So I'll make a substitute motion, I suppose, that support
Supervisor, there's only one substitute motion allowed.
So we have
a substitute motion with a second.
Sorry.
There needs to be a vote on that substitute motion unless it's withdrawn first.
Got it. Okay.
If that fails, we go back to the main motion.
Fair enough. So I'm not able to support the substitute motion, but I would be willing to amend. I would be willing to amend or ask for a friendly amendment to the original motion.
In terms of clarification, we're talking, military was mentioned, but we're only talking about the standing. Is that correct? Or are we taking them all?
We're only talking board standing committees, correct?
Okay, thank you.
So the ones that we are talking about then would be alternative energy, cannabis, the appointees to homeless, and if you could scroll up for me, please.
That's it, Supervisor. So actually the status quo would be keeping alternative energy and cannabis status quo. You'd need to make appointments to the Homelessness Committee because that's new.
And was there not the workforce one at the bottom?
That's a non-county entity.
That's a non-county entity. Okay. All right. So so Chris, go ahead.
Sorry, if I may. So I do think we need to bring some balance to the number of committees that each supervisor holds. So if the two supervisors who are suggested, I'm one of them, I'm happy to share a committee with Supervisor Adams. I think we need to find at least one or two other committees that can be shared with Supervisor Adams to bring balance this year. I do think that's important. So I would say Supervisor Alejo, if you're not comfortable trading out on the cannabis, what committee can we talk about so that we don't have such disparity between one supervisor with two committees and two supervisors with 6 committees?
But we are changing next year, so we're only talking about the next 10 months. And the reason it's not, yeah, I get the point about just rotating for the sake of rotation, but it doesn't. What we are throwing out is the work that has been done on some of these committees. There's ongoing work, there's ongoing oversight. New colleagues are not going to be able to pick up to knowing, because we have got repeated reports and we're monitoring some of the work that's coming forward, and some of the work the progress that has been done in terms of permitting and observing what's happening, trends happening in the particular industry. So that's what we're throwing out in the process for the sake of rotation. And that's why I think we should just keep what we have for the next 10 months, knowing that next year the changes are coming.
Well, I would disagree and indicate that that's one of the reasons why we are having one person remain on the committee rather than having both members leave. And just because someone else comes on the committee doesn't mean that all the work that's been done before is going to be stopped.
We call for a vote.
Yep.
Yes.
Call for a vote. I got to say, as far as I see, it comes down to maybe some equity just in the number of ones. But I know you, Chair, have been wanting to get on the Cannabis Committee. And I think that may be fair. I mean, I was originally on the Cannabis Committee and started it with Dave Potter, and then you and I were on there, and then when I was chair of the board, I felt because Chris Lopez had the majority of the cannabis, he should be on the committee, and then I think Supervisor Leo put himself on there when he was chair of the board, or I forget how it happened, but there has been some rotation, and I think some rotation back 2022 may be appropriate. So I'll probably be in a position where I'll support your original motion and not support I don't see a lot of changes occurring here, and I think the chair has certain rights to get a little something done.
So could you, okay. So I'm sure we're going to have a roll call vote now on this substitute motion. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And could you please restate the substitute motion for us?
The substitute motion was to keep the status quo from 2021 for the remainder of 2022. But just a reminder, if that motion passes, you still need to make appointments to the new Homelessness Committee because that didn't exist last year.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll have a roll call vote.
Supervisor Alejo?
Aye.
Supervisor
no on the last one.
It's on your substitute.
It's
on your substitute motion.
Substitute motion.
That's on my substitute motion.
Supervisor Phillips?
No.
Supervisor Lopez?
Yes.
Supervisor Askew?
No.
And Chair Supervisor Adams?
No. Okay,
So now we return to the main motion.
We'll have a vote on the main motion, which is to keep the status quo. No, to keep attachment 5. Okay, thank you. So to keep attachment 5, the chair's recommendations.
Supervisor Alejo?
No.
Supervisor Phillips?
Aye.
Supervisor Lopez?
No.
Supervisor Askew?
Aye.
And Chair Supervisor Adams?
Aye. Thank you very much. That motion carries. And now we don't need to make appointments because we have appointments to the Homeless Committee, correct? Voting
That is
on
correct. Now, given the time, do you want to put over the non-county entity appointments to next week?
Yes.
So we can just defer that and we'll put that matter back on for next week.
Okay, thank you so very much. And my hope is that the clerk will get that recorded so that we know we'll pick this back up on March 8th. Great. And so now we still have a couple of quick things to accomplish on today's agenda. And I will go to County Administrative Officer before we run out the door.
No comments today, Madam Chair.
We have new referrals. Would you like to just
Sure.
push those through?
Yeah, thank you. Number 30, new referrals. I believe there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new referrals. If I'm wrong, they're all listed under item 30, and we are happy to process those through and return with a preliminary analysis at a future board meeting. And unless board members have comments, they will be moved on.
Okay, thank you. Are there any boards or members of the public that wish to comment on those? Seeing none, those will be moved forward. And then we have one referral response. Could we move that referral response to a later date? That would be item number 31. Thank you so much, Mr. Ishii. We will do that then. We will move that to another date, March 8th or 15th. We'll figure that out. Thank you for that. Are there any members of the board that have any comments they wish to make? Seeing none, we will move forward then, and we will read out the closed session items that we have to read out.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, members of the board. Today, the board approved a tentative agreement with Unit Q, the Park Rangers. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much for that. And now we will adjourn, and we are going to be adjourning today in the memory of Henry Corda and, of course, Salinas Police Officer Jorge David Alvarado Jr. Is there anyone who wishes to make a comment?
Yes, quickly here, Madam Chair. This is Supervisor Lopez. Just want to send our condolences to the family of Henry Hank Corda of Gonzalez, who was born June 21st, 1920. He reached 100 years, lived a good life, and a big part of that was fighting for us overseas, specifically being the tip of the spear in Iwo Jima. He didn't talk about it much, but he was a true patriot and one of those Americans who we should all model our lives after. We're thankful to his family for all the time that they shared and his contributions to our community, and his loss is one that will be felt. And just wanted to share those comments, and we will be sending a letter of condolence and prayers to the family. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Lopez. With that, we will adjourn. And
we got one more.
Excuse me?
We got one more adjourning memory.
Yes.
Yes, Madam Chair, today we stand with the Salinas Police Department, the City of Salinas, and Salinas Mayor Kimberly Craig in expressing our heartbreak and our sorrow at the tragic passing of Salinas Police Officer Jorge David Alvarado Jr. Jorge, or JD as he was known to his family and friends, was tragically gunned down in the line of duty on February 25th at around 10:41 p.m. while conducting a traffic stop near the intersection of Griffin and East Market Street in Salinas. He was immediately confronted by the suspect who fired at Officer Alvarado, but the critically injured Officer Alvarado returned fire. These heroic actions during the confrontation directly led to the arrest of the suspect. Officer Alvarado was only 30 years old and was a 5-year veteran of law enforcement. He was born and raised in San Francisco, and after graduating from high school, he enlisted in the United States Army, where he served in the 101 Airborne Division. In 2011, Officer Alvarado was deployed to Afghanistan with the Rakkasans of the 3rd Battalion, 187th Infantry Regiment during Operation Enduring Freedom, where he served with distinction and received the Army Commendation Medal and 2 citations of the Army Achievement Medal for his actions in combat. He served as a team leader and a squad leader and was then promoted to the rank of sergeant. After his military service, Officer Alvarado enrolled at the Monterey Peninsula Police Academy and later recruited by the Colma Police Department in 2016. In August of 2020, he then transferred to the Salinas Police Department, where his brother was already serving as a police officer. Sadly, and most tragically, Officer Alvarado was to be married in only 2 weeks and had recently bought a home for him and his fiancée in Salinas. He is survived by his fiancée, his brother, and his mother. Monterey County expresses our deepest condolences to all his family, his fiancée, and his friends, and offer our prayers during this most difficult time. We adjourn today's Board of Supervisors meetings in honor of our community hero who gave it all for all of us. And for that, we are forever grateful. May Jorge David Alvarado Jr. rest in peace, and you will never be forgotten, brother. Que descanses en paz, hermano. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And with that, we will adjourn as we, as a board, walk to the vigil at the Salinas City Hall. Thank you.